Recently, somebody sent me a Facebook post by somebody famous, but apparently famous to the world, everybody in the world but me. I had never heard of this person, named Prince with a capital P. I'm not even going to take a shot at pronouncing this. So Prince, and then two letters, E-A, capital E, small a. No idea how to pronounce that. Ordinarily, I don't read or watch these things, but somehow I watched this video. It was intriguing. And if you look it up and, type in some of these words and you want to see it rather than read it, swell. But I'm more of a reader. And so here are the lyrics. He said, "This is going to make a lot of people sad and probably some happy, but I can't worry about that now. I quit. Fine, call me a quitter. I don't care. I just can't do this anymore. I've changed. You're not to blame. I'm just not the same person you knew before. So not to be rude at all, but I'm done trying to live up to your expectations and down to them. Basically, I quit being bound to them. I quit following everyone's opinion of what is right for me. I quit holding myself back, living emotionally trapped and not being who I'd like to be. I quit being loyal to these negative thoughts that have never been useful. I quit letting the guilt of my past get in my path and deprive me of a beautiful future. I quit letting people who have proven that they don't really care about me get to me. I quit hanging out with friends who, of most days, I couldn't tell if they were friends or enemies, draining my energy. I quit letting society's expectations and timetables pressure me, direct my destiny, and stress me. I quit forgiving everyone else in the whole world except myself. I quit wanting the cool kids to accept me. I quit not saying what's on my mind, and in important times, letting fear come near and suppress me. I quit being so emotionally tired to the likes. I'm pretty sure that was meant to say tied, but I quit being so emotionally tied to the likes and shares of people I barely know online. I quit self-doubt and self-sabotage. I quit being a screw-up and a gonna-doer. I quit sleepwalking through life instead of living my dreams. I quit queuing for ducks to line up instead of spreading my wings. I quit not giving 100%. I quit dimming my light so that others won't have to squint. I quit peer pressure and people-pleasing. I quit the prison of perfection. I quit the fear of failure and the fear of success. I quit hesitation and desperation, expectations, devastations. You recognizing all these words? I quit. And he says, and I know why I don't have a 2 weeks notice. So I accept this as my letter of resignation. I know it seems sudden, but trust me, it's been a long time coming. But now my time here is up. Oh, but don't worry. I'm grateful for the experience, and I have an amazing new life lined up. I quit. He's quitting all that stuff that we've talked about many times. Now, whether he actually does is just, frankly, none of my business. But he wants to, and he at least has a beginning of seeing how he's trapped by expectations. The world is quickly spiraling into a pandemic of selfishness and victimhood. It's everywhere. Pick up a newspaper, anywhere. Fear, selfishness, victimhood. But it's also motivating some people, like this fellow who wrote the poetry, to rise above all that and shout that something's wrong with this trend. Bless such people of courage. So, what are you willing to quit? There are some things we have to quit before we can build. There's some things that are so destructive that we have to stop them before we can move forward. Some negatives are so impactful, so destructive, like a fire in your house. You gotta quit that. You gotta put it out before you can do anything else. So Are you willing to quit being afraid? Are you willing to quit being alone? And quit complaining about it. Quit it, because you don't have to be alone. You're willing to quit making excuses for not moving forward toward real joy. Quit blaming other people for how you feel. Quit using your pain as an excuse for not feeling loved. Poor me, poor me. Are you willing to quit finding reasons to do nothing? Because they're there. They're always there. Are you willing to quit being angry? Like, really quit. Are you willing to quit resenting people for the mistakes they've made? Doesn't help. Are you willing to quit it? Are you willing to quit spending time with people who do nothing but drain you, no matter what they will then think of you? Are you willing to quit acting small so people won't notice you and possibly criticize you? Are you willing to quit trying to get people to like you? Quit worshiping your pain. Quit being afraid. Again. Quit saying, I can't. Quit settling for survival instead of peace and love and unbridled crazy joy. What are you willing to quit? It will determine how you feel. It will determine who you are. New subject. A member of the website wrote to me and said, a head filled with lies is like being in a room filled with balloons. It's interesting, maybe stimulating for a moment, but suffocating to live in. As we deflate a few, we can enjoy the spaciousness that returns. Yes, we learned our lives. And when the room is filled with them, I'm still quoting this person, when the room is filled with balloons, we don't have much choice. But we can learn the truth too. And we discovered that the balloons are not only suffocating, they're blinding. You can't see other people or chairs or doors. We need to get rid of all the balloons and start over with what we want in the room. Recently, I gave an assignment to a person who has pleased people all of her life. I'm not quoting this person anymore. And it's suffocated her. I prescribed 7 days of telling everybody no. Nearly killed her. She thought she was addicted to her career. No, she was addicted to pleasing children who wanted her attention. She said no to all of them and discovered she had no life. She discovered that her husband actually wanted her time. She discovered that her children needed to learn some things without her rescuing them. She discovered she was trying to make up for the past when she was not there for her kids. If you're addicted to something, there's only one cure. You got to stop it for a while. Stop it. Get whatever help you need from whatever friends in whatever way. Pop all the balloons. Then you discover how addicted you were and to what, and what it feels like to have a real life. It's worth it. All it takes is a pin. New subject. Ursula Le Guin, the French would probably pronounce it Le Guin, but somebody who knows her, I heard pronounce her name, was the queen of science fiction. Been writing science fiction forever. Been writing science fiction since I was a boy and reading the only way science fiction was found, which was in little teeny paperback books where the paper was brown. Always remember that. Nobody read science fiction. She's been doing it forever. The New York Times described her as America's greatest living science fiction writer before she died. Not the greatest woman writer, which some people have called her. No, just the greatest living science fiction writer. And she said, fear is seldom, this is from one of her books, is seldom wise and never kind. Well, it's kind of obvious fear's not wise, but why is it not kind? Because fear is always about us. We focus on ourselves, what's happening to us, what might happen to us. And we behave and feel selfish. We have to eliminate it in order to see clearly. Feel happy and be loving. This is one of those things, to borrow from how we opened the video chat, that we have to be willing to quit. Fear. And it can be done. And if you don't know how, then you get on the website and you find people and you read books on the website and you look at video chats and you'll find out how. If you're really interested in how, you'll find it. If you're addicted to your fear, if you like it, if you enjoy the intention, then you probably won't. Oh, but it's really worth it. If you're afraid, you're in prison. Fear is seldom wise and never kind. New subject. I know a lady named Joan, and she has a lifetime of pleasing people. Now, pay attention. There are different kinds of people pleasing. I'm not sure I've talked about this before. Actually, this might be new. I may not even have written about it before. Joan made me think about it. First, there's the steady, simpering, please make me feel worthwhile kind of people pleaser. They do things so that, am I okay as a person? They do things so that, in the hope of they'll get approval and a sense of worth. But there's another kind. They do things for people, they rescue them, they serve them, and they demand appreciation. So the one looks softer, more cowardly, more begging, but they're both people pleasers. The second one is demanding. If they don't get the appreciation, or if their attempt to do the right thing, they're very often obsessive compulsive, they get angry, yell, get depressed, and blame people, which of course gets the opposite result of the pleasing that they wanted or that they started off with. Call this aggressive people pleasing. This woman did this with her kids, Joan, all of their lives. Aggressively demanded their approval. She would do something for them and go, well, and demand some kind of acknowledgement or gratitude or kiss her feet or whatever. And they were terrified. If they didn't appreciate her, she cut their heads off, yelled at them, blamed them for her life. Still a kind of people pleasing. You could call it controlling people pleasing. That would be another name for it. Controlling or aggressive. Took me a while actually to identify that her controlling was her way of people pleasing. It was obvious she was a controller, but she was actually trying to get a sense of worth. Not just power. Most controllers do it for power. Yeah, she wanted it to be worthwhile. So what did I do? We did an experiment of, I can't remember, 14 days, 30 days, something. Odd that this is so close to the one we earlier talked about where I did an experiment of somebody saying no. 14 days or whatever it was of not people pleasing. Now, she owned her own business, semi-retired, but she would go in anyway just to make sure things went well. What does that mean? She wanted to control things. She felt indispensable, important, pleasing the person who is buying the business, helping them make the transition, but controlling the transition so that she would be acknowledged as Superwoman. Solution? stop going in. Stop going in at all. You were tired. You've sold the business, so stop it. Let this person figure it out. Finally, she'd recognized the harm she'd done to her children. So she went from controlling to helping, saving, and rescuing. What was she doing? She went from obvious controlling to being a controlling people pleaser. Kind of clever, but not really, because the word controlling is still in there, and she just used people pleasing as a means to do it. Solution: stop it. So when her daughter called and asked her to come and visit, she said no. Nearly killed her to say no, which of course is proof that she's addicted to it. Then she discovered that her daughter was fine without her, that her husband was happy. This is the aggressive people pleaser. Her husband was happy to have time alone with her. You can't discover what it's like not to be an addict until you quit it, till you quit whatever you're addicted to. You're in prison. You can't discover what freedom is like until you're free. You can't discover what it's like to spread your wings and jump off the cliff till you jump off. Now, you might get some guidance about jumping off a cliff before you do that, but I mean jump off a cliff figuratively. If you're unhappy, you're addicted to something. When we're in pain, we use. We do. We can't stand the pain, so we use something to get the pain to be less. Figure out what you're addicted to. If you need the help of a wise person, fine. There are free group conference calls where there are wise men who will help you figure it out. There are coaches who will help you figure it out. Sometimes you have to just stop the addiction before you can feel the love. Like the woman who controlled her children. I said, let's go for 14 days and you just say no to everything. Well, she discovered in a pretty big hurry that she was addicted to controlling and people pleasing. And she couldn't feel the love fully until she stopped it because she was getting too much out of what she was doing. It was too big a distraction. Like using cocaine. While you're using cocaine and in a blur from the narcotic effects, you can't feel loved. Well, you can't feel loved while you're addicted to other things either. Normally, we need to feel enough love to be able to stop the addiction, but sometimes we have to stop in order to feel love, or do both at the same time. People pleasing, alcohol, drugs, whatever. We can become addicted to anything that diminishes pain, and we have to quit it. We're kind of back again to the guy at the top of our time together. He said, I quit. Are you willing to quit? New subject. Somebody wrote me and said, today I was writing in my accountability journal and reflecting on what I've been doing wrong. And a notion clicked for me and felt true. A lot. And I mean, a lot. I realized that all of the women and the girls I've dated have been addicted to drama. You know the kind. They never come into the room and tell you about something that's gone wrong, or calmly sit down and after a few minutes, mention that, yeah, and my mom's in the hospital. No. They come in the room and the circus has come to town. There are clowns and elephants and whips being snapped, and they take over the room. Look at me, usually poor me. So back to the person who wrote. There's a reason that you're addicted to, that you're addicted to dating drama addicts. People only do what we put up with. You date people who are drama addicts because you let them do it. If you didn't, they'd go away. They wouldn't be attracted to you. They can smell you from across the room. Is that a person who's going to listen to my crazy story? Oh, yeah. Drama addicts are not addicted to me because we put out the fire first thing. And then the drama's not there. Well, that's no fun if you're a drama addict. Now, let's be clear that we do not get to tell people how to be as human beings, by themselves or with others. We don't get to tell people what to do. You don't get to tell somebody not to be a drama addict. But we do get to make decisions about how they behave with us. We do. You let women be drama addicts with you. Everything's a big deal. They're classic victims. They use words like, it was so terrible. It was so unfair. Those are just clues. The word so is about, every fifth word. And they're always so upset about this and that. And it was never their fault. And there's always an excuse or story. And I just can't believe that person was so whatever. And it never stops. How'd you learn to do this? Well, your mother, because I know her, is a classic flaming drama addict. So you think it's normal. And she taught you that you had to put up with it. See? She's an addict, so she taught you to be addicted to her approval. Everybody who's unhappy is addicted to something. She's an addict, she taught you to be one. You continue. I can see a number of ways in my past in which I've become more dramatic in order to cling to drama addicts. Yeah, well, they really like that, as long as you don't interfere with them being dramatic. You continue. I frequently was dramatic in romantic ways. That's really easy to do. Hire the violinist, bring the big bouquet of flowers, take a trip to Paris. I was dramatic in romantic ways to justify my worth or to convince them to stay in a relationship with me. Again, because of what you saw your mother do. None of this is conscious. You don't put up a sign in a group of people that says, all drama addicts gather under my sign. You don't do that. Like they do when cruise ships do shore excursions. They put up a sign and everybody going here, go there. You don't do that with drama addicts, but it's on your face. More drama for you learned this as a kid, means more attention. So you do it and you let them do it, and on it goes. It just becomes a carnival. You continue. So I convinced them to stay in a relationship with me so I wouldn't lose my own source of imitation love. Brilliant. Even after Sherry and I, last girlfriend, broke up, if someone in our mutual Facebook group would post something about romance or couples or relationships, I would reply with something that alluded to me still having feelings for her, in the hopes that she would read it and value me, and that her heart would be touched and we'd have some more drama. I'm addicted to drama so much that I use drama as a currency for my real addiction, which is clinging. That's pretty smart of you to say that. Because, yeah, you're addicted to drama, but really, a drama addict taught you to be addicted to their approval, to cling to their approval. And one of the ways to do it is to be dramatic yourself. Yes, pretty good observation. But the truth is, you continue, the fuller I feel, the more peaceful I become, the more loved I feel, the easier it is for me to notice when I am clinging or when I want to cling. And then I can choose something different. Like we talked about at the start of this chat, then you can quit. You don't have to be addicted. You don't have to be in prison. You don't have to put up a sign that says, all drama addicts, please gather here in this corner. Until you believe and feel the real thing enough. Real love. Clinging and drama will destroy you. It becomes a song and dance, and you get applause and attention and paid in all sorts of ways. But you're blind. You won't know the truth about the lies until you recognize what you're doing. And you're beginning to. You're beginning to see what you're doing, which will then give you the ability to choose to quit. Wow. Wouldn't that be fun? New subject. My 3-year-old granddaughter, this is me now, Bonnie, got in the car at church and was in the process of buckling herself into her car seat. In order to do that, she had to put her basket on the seat. And it was a basket that was filled with candy, Easter eggs, and, the kind of stuff that you get when you go to, wherever, church or any social gathering, or frankly, grandma or grandpa's house, or wherever, at Easter time. So she had to put it on the seat. Her 5-year-old brother immediately, like an eagle, spotted the candy not being properly secured in a safe deposit box. And as every 5-year-old knows, if it's not in a safe, well, then it must be mine. It's just lying around for the taking. Clearly, he was thinking of taking the candy, but he visibly shook his head. He's 5. And he said, I'm not going to eat any of these. I'm going to keep the peace. And he settled back into his car seat with a smug expression of self-satisfaction. He made a choice. He chose to quit being selfish. We can make choices when we finally know them. When we feel loved enough, we recognize that keeping the peace, not by pleasing people, keeping the peace because it's just the right thing to do, is better than temporarily satisfying ourselves with a mouthful of chocolate eggs or whatever our addiction is. What child doesn't become addicted to chocolate, for goodness sake? He made a choice. If we adults could do this, choose peace and happiness over temporary gain, selfishness, praise, power, money, blah, 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 the whole world would change. No kidding. If we could do it, Bruce just did. But here's a 5-year-old kid proving that such a choice is a very real possibility. So I want to grow up. I want to grow up to be like Bruce. And here he is, my 5-year-old grandchild. I'm good with that. The wisdom skips a generation, apparently. New subject. This is somebody who wrote to me and said, I'm grateful for what real love is not. I'd never gotten a letter like this before. So I was intrigued immediately. I wanted to hear what real love wasn't. Real love is not. Real love is not requiring donations. You just accept it. You're not hassled to donate. And we don't do that for a reason. We don't want people to feel obligated when they go to the website. We don't want them to feel obligated when they open their emails. Frankly, the website takes far more money to maintain than we ever make from it. From memberships, from... The website exists for you. And we pay for it a lot. It takes a lot. It takes 2 full-time people to maintain the website. The donations don't even come close. But we don't require them. members pay to be members to sort of help us keep going with the website. Otherwise, we couldn't afford it. Continuing the list. I'm grateful for what real love is not, requiring participation in ceremonies. There are lots of places that you go where they do require you to participate in ceremonies in order to bond with the group. No, we prefer to bond just with real love. Real love is not elevating one person as God's messenger. Heavens no. We all are. We all have the capacity to listen to the Spirit. Nobody has a corner on that. Real love is not giving out certificates, awards, or plaques of recognition. That's not going to happen. We're all just doing our best. So why do we need to be recognized? Why do we need a trophy? Why do we need to do what happens at kids' athletic events now where everybody gets a trophy? Everybody's a winner. No, everybody showed up and had a good time. How about that? Real love is not doing local, national, international campaigns of any sort. It's not promoting one lifestyle, especially anything about sexual relationships. It's not pointing to other things as being evil or ungodly, like religious preferences or oppression. It's not encouraging obedience to any person or ideology. I challenge you to find a time where I tell people you must do this. Like the experiment of the lady who was a people pleaser. And I said, well, do you want to get rid of this addiction? Yes or no? She said, yes. I said, do you want to hear a way to do that? Yes. I said, well, here's a way. Do you want to do that? Yes. But don't tell people what to do. Real love is not turning a blind eye to the real causes of suicide, divorce, etc. No kidding. I read lots of magazines and they miss the real causes of all these things every time. Real love is not making promises of certainty about what the kingdom of heaven on earth is, or what we should be doing, or claiming to be the only answer. This person continues, and I don't remember if it was a man or a woman. I'm grateful for what real love teaches. It's focused on every individual, meaning me, learning the truth and what love feels like. Showing what being responsible for my happiness is. Getting to the core of what the hell is going on that I've been so confused about all my life. That real love is ever patient. That real love is liberating. As Donna says it, it's freedom and joy, kid. That's what it is. You follow these principles, you'll be free. And you'll like it. That's how complicated that is. Quit your addictions, be free, have fun. There. What is real love like, really? Like that. It's like the decision my 5-year-old grandson made. I'm not going to participate in contention. It never works. I'm just going to keep my hands to myself. Not complicated. 5 years old. If he can do it, maybe I can learn to grow up and do that. New subject. I know a woman and been in real love for several years, and she finally found a pretty loving partner. He read the dating book, marriage book, they talked together, and she writes, I would very much like your advice on how to work with my intimate partner on listening skills. Specifically, I noticed that when I share information, he quickly follows up with additional information about himself rather than really listening or seeing me. Well, that's true of, almost everybody. I watch people talk all the time. And one person talks about a subject and the other person talks about how they've had a similar experience. And the other person talks, and they could have this conversation independently. They don't really even need the other person. They just wait to talk. You continue. How can I explain to him that I want to be seen? And that really I want to be really listened to? And that when he immediately starts sharing about himself, I feel cut off and unheard. Well, the answer is pretty simple because you already gave it. You have to say exactly what you just told me. You say, when I speak about whatever, you change the subject to yourself and you don't listen to me. And I would really like to feel seen and not cut off and unheard. You don't tell him that he has to stop that. Don't do that. You just say, this is what I would like. Or he'll keep doing it. And you won't feel heard. And you're really not going to like that in the long run. He does it out of habit. He does it because he was taught. Nobody's taught how to listen. In my entire life, there are listening techniques, sure. But I was never really taught how to listen to somebody, how to care about them. So there's no blaming here of him. You say something like, Fred, I just told you this. Y. X, whatever. Which was something that was related to me. You don't mean to do it. I know that. But you immediately responded with something about you. If we had a written transcript here of our conversation, there would be no indication after my speaking that you heard a word I said. It would look like two people speaking independently in different rooms. I have done this with people, by the way. I've said something. I don't demand to be listened to, but I've said something and they respond and I go, did you hear what I said? And they're dumbfounded. They look at me like, you're breaking the rules. Because the general rule in society is I speak about what I want to say and you speak about what you want to say, and we just do that back and forth and nobody ever connects. They look at me like, what do you mean? I say, did you hear what I said? Well, sure. Then say it back to me. Or indicate in some way that you heard. Or anything. They don't even remember because they were just waiting to talk. I can tell you that he's doing what he's doing because he's done this all of his life. And that's all he's seen anybody do because it's the cultural norm. I've been watching it for 65 years now. And he will, initially, when you say this, promise you, he will defend himself. So be ready for that. Don't be ready not to be annoyed by that. Be ready to make a choice. Be ready to say, as 5-year-old Bruce did, I choose to keep the peace. You're not making a sacrifice. Just be ready for him to defend himself because he will, because that's all he's ever known. So of course he will. Be like me saying to you, we live in outer space in a vacuum. And you would immediately say, no, we don't. That's what he's going to do. He lives on a different planet. So you repeat what you said, what I recommended that you say, and then you show him exactly, word for word, what really listening would look like. You just say, here's what you would say if you had been listening to me. And you emphasize, I'm not trying to control you. I'm not trying to get you to say this. I'm just saying, I'm looking for a partner. You don't do this with strangers because, frankly, they don't care. But I'm looking for a partner who can hear me. So you say, here's what it would look like to listen to me. After I said X, real listening would look like this. And then you show him the words and emphasize the focus or the intent of the words. Not that specific words matter. You show him what responding and understanding would look like. I don't know what subject you were talking to about, so I can't give you an example. But it'd be really easy if you gave me one. When I say this and you understand it, a real response would be this. Or you're going to end up feeling alone. You're going to fall for the romantic, fun, getting lots of attention stuff, and you're going to discover you have a partner who can't hear you. If your partner can't hear you, listening is the most active thing you can do in loving. And you won't have it. So it's essential that you do this with him relatively early on, or later, it's going to be too late. You're going to be all wrapped up in all the other ties that you have with the attention getting and sharing and trading, and you're going to have somebody who can't see you or hear you. That's really not fun. You continue. Also, something very specific happened yesterday that seems small, but really wasn't. Good for you. It's almost like there aren't any small things. If you don't bring them up when these little small things bother you, they're going to get bigger. Even if the thing doesn't get bigger, it's going to get bigger to you. You say, I made him dinner and then had a problem with my kitchen sink disposal. They call it different things in different countries. It's that little machine that your sink drains into that grinds up the garbage. It was making a loud noise. I started talking about the problem, and he was sitting at the table and said, you'll figure it out. It was his tone. That was the problem, not the words. His tone said, I don't care. His tone said, I'm not really listening to you. Are you done talking about that silly garbage disposal so that I can go on to talk about something that matters to me? That's the tone. So, honey, you got to pay attention to the tone. You got to talk about it. He's telling you that there's something missing for him. He is stressed himself. He is reacting in his own PTSD. He's thinking about a problem of his, on and on. If you don't talk about it, it's going to get worse. You continue. We'd spent 2 days apart before this dinner, and later he told me that he felt lethargic at home by himself those 2 nights, and I then asked him to help me, which he did, with the garbage disposal, and then he snapped at me when I moved to turn on the water while he was turning on the disposal. He apologized for snapping. This has happened only a few times in the 9 months we've been dating, but it has happened before. Well, pay attention, kid, because if he's snapping at you while you're dating, he's going to snap at you a whole lot more when the two of you have made an agreement to stay together forever. Then he's going to feel like, well, now I can snap at her whenever I want to, and she's got to stay. I gave him feedback that his exact words and his tone upset me. He knows, and he apologized again this morning. It really stung, even though it sounds like a small thing. Not a small thing. I just did not feel loved by him at that time. That's because you weren't being loved by him at that time. You can't snap at somebody and be loving. Not in that moment. Regrettably, I know that from personal experience, having done it. He wasn't loving you. But dang, kid, at least he apologized right after he did it, and he apologized the next morning. That's a lot. That's the beginning of listening. So much of the time he doesn't listen to you, but when you said you didn't like it, that he snapped at you, he apologized and he apologized again. It's a lot. I would actually recommend that you thank him for apologizing, because not a lot of people do that. The next time something like this happens, just a suggestion, do it any way you want. Ask him what he actually did, rather than just settling for an apology. Apologies don't mean very much. People apologize just because they can see you're in pain and you don't like it, and then you'll be distant from them, and they apologize so you'll like them again. So the apology they don't see what they did. One of the classics is, I'm sorry you feel bad about that. They don't acknowledge that they did anything wrong, but they're sorry that, there's a distance between you that you've created because you're an idiot. That's often what an apology means. Or, I'm sorry I got caught. So the next time, ask him what he did. For example, he might say to you, which you may have to give to him. You may have to tell him what he did. You may have to give him the words to say. You might say, as we talked about just a few minutes ago, sometimes you have to give people the words what listening looks like because they've never done it. Do you see? And I do this with people for quite a bit. Here's what listening would look like. Here's what understanding would look like. So you might say this. You would have said this if you understood what you did. I snapped at you. This is you telling him what he would say if he really understood. That doesn't mean he has to say it. I snapped at you because I was distracted by my own thoughts or past fears, or because I wanted to be doing something else, or because I was controlled by my mother when I was a kid and she made me come and fix everything. Who knows? Maybe my father snapped at me every time we tried to fix something together. I know kids who are severely, this is a parenthetical comment, who absolutely refuse to fix anything. Because when their fathers went to work in the car or whatever, they just made life hell. Threw instruments, screamed, hand me the 3/8 inch wrench. And when they got a 1/2 inch wrench, there was screaming and yelling and belittling, and now they won't fix anything. Maybe the guy you're dating is like that, but you tell him that's the kind of thing you say. I snapped because it was always unpleasant before, but I took it out on you. And that was wrong. End quote. That's an example of what you would give him as his understanding. What I'm telling you is you're going to need to help him. You're going to need to help him listen to you. You're going to need to help him really understand what he did when he's critical or snippy or whatever. Not to control him. If you say, okay, you must say this when you make this mistake. That's not a relationship. You're just sort of, training a seal. I'm just giving you examples of how you gather information. If you show him what it's like to listen and he goes, that doesn't make any sense, and he argues with you and he fights with you and he never listens, well, honey, that's what you're going to marry. That's the relationship you're going to have. He's never going to hear you. You have to speak. Makes a big difference. Speak, suggest, help open his eyes, give him examples, point out when he isn't listening, but don't control him. For some people, that's just impossible. But I think you can do it. New subject. My roommate has spurts of anger when she doesn't like some little thing I've done, like leave a pile of laundry right where she told me she wanted it. She's generally all the time about to flip at the slightest thing. And then a day or two later, she acts like nothing has happened. It's usually directed at the other roommate, but this time it was directed at me. And it's just really unpleasant to live with. And it takes me right back to when my dad used to have an outburst of anger. And then when he's cooled down, he acts like, well, what are you upset about? In fact, he would sometimes say that. What's wrong with you? And I'm thinking, what's wrong with me? What's wrong with you as a parent? You suck at it. So when my roommate treats me like this, it reminds me of how I felt when my dad did it. In fact, he would make us feel like we were imagining things to even still feel wounded. Well, yeah, why did he do that? Because he didn't want to face it. Just like the boyfriend that we were just talking about, of the woman who wrote right before you. We don't like to face being wrong. We don't like it. So we fight, and then it turns into World War III just to defend our being wrong. And we hurt everybody around us. You continue. I've decided that I'm not going to tolerate that in my living environment anymore. Well, good for you. You don't get to control other people, but you do get to decide what you're going to do when they behave that way with you. You do. If somebody wants to swing a stick everywhere they go, great big I don't know, 4-foot long stick from a tree everywhere they go and smash lamps and walk in the house, and fine as long as they're walking in their house. But you don't get to walk into my house doing that. And you don't get to be around me. And if that means I get out a bigger stick to break yours so that I don't get hurt, I'm good with that. I won't hit you, but I'm going to stop the swinging of the stick, and you get to stop it. Victims hold everybody hostage forever. Your roommate, your dad, everybody. And you've learned to accept being a hostage. And you just said, like we began at the top of the hour, I quit. I quit being a victim. I quit being a hostage to victims. But again, you can decide only what you will do or won't do when a victim behaves badly. Can't control people. You continue. Rather than just state my boundary, though, I want to take the opportunity to come from a loving place rather than a victim place, which I know I often slip into. Good for you. You're going to soon be as smart as Bruce, who's 5. You say, so I thought to approach my roommate and say, you don't realize it, but often when you communicate with me regarding something you're not happy about, it tends to be in an angry way. I'm particularly sensitive to anger, so I tend not to be very engaged with you when anger is involved. That means I don't listen to you as well as you deserve to be listened to. But I've decided not to engage in conversations anymore when one of us is angry. I'm not going to do it. I quit, to use the words of the poem when we started. It's a lose-lose. Neither of us enjoy it. In the future, I'm not going to participate in these conversations. In the future, would you be willing to wait until your anger subsides and discuss any issue with me when you're not angry? That's reasonable. You're not controlling her. You're just asking her if she would. For my part, I will make sure that every time you want to discuss an issue, I listen to you fully, completely, totally engaged in what you're saying, but not if you're angry, and not if I'm angry. What do you think? Would you change it in any way or suggest a different course of action? This was to me. Only a little. There's a tone of you telling her what you want her to do. So would you be willing not to? The average person will hear that as, don't do that. You didn't do it wrong. I'm just telling you how she's going to hear it. She's going to hear it as, I choose not to be angry. Now you have to choose that too, even though you didn't say that. But that's what she'll hear. You can only say you won't participate in a conversation where there's anger. You get to say that. I won't do that. And you actually said it quite well, but she won't hear it quite well. Second email, same person. I spoke to my roommate about the interaction we had last week when she was angry. I said, you may not have realized it, but when we spoke about whatever, you had quite an angry tone. I'm sensitive to anger, so it means that in those conversations, I can't focus on you as well as you deserve. I've decided not to participate in angry conversations anymore. And I did what you suggested I not do. I asked her in the future if she would be willing to wait till her anger subsides before she speaks. And it went very badly at first. Sorry, but that's why I told you that she would hear it badly. Predictable. You asked her to change. What she heard was that you told her how to change. She only knows how to be angry. Do you see? So even though you were asking, she only sees one choice. If she doesn't get her way, boom, she kills people. And you're saying, would you be willing to consider not killing people? She's going, I'm confused. Because all she knows how to do is that. So she reacted badly to it. Just like when I suggested earlier to the lady who was dating a guy that she show him what listening would look like. And I told her, it will go badly because he'll hear you trying to control him. But see, they're in a different deal. They're in a possible committed relationship. She really does have to do that. You didn't. This is just a roommate. You just tell her what you're going to do. You continue. She said she wasn't angry and that she thinks we should discuss it on the spot, no matter whether we're angry or not, whatever the issue is, and then wait till she's calmed down and that perhaps we should just not talk from now on and just do our best to live with each other. That entire sentence didn't make much sense to me, except that bottom line is her roommate said, well, then let's just not talk anymore and let's just coexist. Good luck with that. So how do you communicate to your roommate when her pile of garbage is on your bed? Or she always leaves her wet laundry in the dryer, or you could do that. You could just do all the work, but see, now you're held hostage to a victim again. And it's running and hiding and lying. You continue. I just responded, if you prefer not to speak at all, that's fine. I respect that. I'm here if you ever want to talk about something. Anyway, 2 minutes later, she knocks on my door, comes in totally calm, and then she got defensive because she said she was brought up in a really angry environment, so she hates to think that people view her as an angry person. And she told me how she feels socially anxious, and I explained to her how I think she's delightful, and that occasion when she was angry is understandable. And I explained that I was inconsiderate to do whatever, something. And I explained to her again that when I said I would not participate in angry conversations in the future, it was out of concern for her because I want to be able to listen to her. And when I focused on listening to her and didn't make her bad, it went beautifully. It was like she got ears. She listened instead of stabbing me because I didn't react with anger, which everybody else does when she acts like this. Or they just become her slave, and either way, it just sucks. She's alone. You made a choice. You made a choice to listen to her. You made a choice not to react with anger. You made a choice not to reach over and steal her chocolate eggs. Pretty amazing, the power of being loving. You were loving. You made some stumbles along the way and suggested that she not be angry, but you were loving enough that she came back in and told you where her anger came from her childhood. That's stunning. You made the difference. You chose to quit it, to quit reacting to a victim like almost everybody does. You conclude, she said she'd never thought about anger being unproductive in this way. How would she? Nobody in her life had ever told her. But she said, I suppose you're right. Anyway, I'm so glad I had the guts to bring it up in the first place rather than avoid her. Holding people accountable really is loving. It seems to disarm them in a peculiar way that opens up opportunity for truth and blocked emotions to come out and real connection to take place. Wow. I could never have made this choice without all the practicing that I've done in real love. Yeah, no kidding. Because a great number of the words you said to her would just have promoted a fight. But you weren't angry when you delivered them. And she was kind of intrigued, actually excited to be having a different kind of conversation. You made a choice to quit being a hostage and instead to be loving. That doesn't mean that this would have gone well, but it did because of the choice that you made. We can all make this choice. We can all be like Bruce. We can all be like this girl with her roommate. We can all learn to quit the stuff that we were taught when we were kids that doesn't work. We can all choose to learn to be loving and happy. I'll see you in a week.